Grey Hollow. The name itself sent shivers down the spines of seasoned travelers. It was a town lost to time, nestled deep within a forgotten valley. The townsfolk rarely ventured out. Outsiders rarely ventured in. Whispers of strange occurrences, of an unsettling presence, clung to the very air of Grey Hollow. The most unsettling of all was the legend of the vanishing hour. Every night the clock would strike 2:13 a.m. A chilling silence would descend upon Grey Hollow. It was as if the town itself held its breath. Then it would begin. An eerie presence, unseen, unheard, yet undeniably felt, would move through the empty streets. Those who dared to witness it, to catch a glimpse of its true nature, would vanish without a trace. The only evidence left behind. An incessant rhythmic knocking, echoing through the desolate streets long after the vanishing hour had passed.
Eleanor Sykes was a writer, her soul yearning for tales of the unknown. When she heard the legend of Grey Hollow and its vanishing hour, she knew she had found her next story. Eleanor, armed with her wit, her courage, and a bag full of cameras, arrived at the outskirts of Grey Hollow. The town was eerily quiet. It was as if the very houses themselves were watching her every move. Despite the unsettling atmosphere, Eleanor felt a strange sense of excitement. She was about to step into the heart of a mystery. She rented a small, dusty house at the edge of town. Its windows, like the eyes of an ancient being, stared out into the encroaching darkness. Nightfall came quickly. The first night was the longest of Eleanor's life. The silence was almost unbearable. It pressed in on her, suffocating, heavy. The clock ticked past midnight. 1 a.m. Stillness. 2 a.m. The air grew thick. 2:13 a.m. The town held its breath. The silence was absolute. Eleanor could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. It was then that she felt it. A presence. Cold, unseen, moving just beyond the edge of her vision. She crept to the window. The street below was empty, yet she could sense something in the shadows. A shifting shape, a flicker of movement. It was there one moment, gone the next. Then, she saw it. A figure, tall, impossibly thin, shrouded in darkness. It glided silently down the center of the street, not walking, but floating. Eleanor raised her camera. She snapped a photo. The flash illuminated the street, but the figure was gone. Section 5. The malfunctioning cameras. The second night arrived. Eleanor was ready. She had set up cameras throughout the house, all pointing towards the street. The clock ticked closer to 2:13 a.m. The silence descended. The presence returned, colder and closer than before. Eleanor's heart pounded in her chest, but this time she was prepared, or so she thought. As soon as the clock struck 2:13 a.m., her cameras began to malfunction. Static, flickering screens, dead batteries. One by one they went dark. Section 6. The face in the darkness. Panic welled up inside her. She was alone, unprotected. Then she saw it again. The figure. This time it was closer, right outside her window. It moved with an unnatural grace. It was then that she saw its face. Pale, gaunt, with eyes that seemed to burn with an inner fire. It stared directly at her. A grin spread across its face. A horrible, grotesque grin that revealed rows of sharp-pointed teeth. Section 7. The unsettling knock. The third night. Eleanor was paralyzed by fear. She couldn't leave the house. She was trapped. She sat huddled in the corner, her back against the wall, her eyes fixed on the door. The clock struck 2:13 a.m. The knocking began. It started softly, almost imperceptibly. Then it grew louder, more insistent. Knock, knock, knock. It was coming from the front door. Section 8. Trapped in terror. Eleanor's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body refused to obey. She was frozen in place. The knocking grew louder, more frantic. The doorknob rattled violently. It was trying to get in. Whatever it was getting closer. Eleanor scrambled to her feet and stumbled towards the back door. She fumbled with the lock. It wouldn't budge. She pulled and pulled, but the door wouldn't open. She was trapped. The knocking on the front door suddenly stopped. A deathly silence descended upon the house. Eleanor held her breath. She listened intently. Nothing. Then a slow, deliberate creaking sound came from behind her. The back door was opening. Eleanor spun around. Standing in the doorway was the figure. It was no longer shrouded in darkness. It was illuminated by an unnatural light. Its eyes burned with an unholy fire. It reached out a long, skeletal hand. The next morning, the sun rose over Grey Hollow. The town was silent. Eleanor Sykes was gone. Her cameras were found scattered across the floor of the rented house. The footage was corrupted, useless. The only sign of Eleanor's presence was a single note, left on the kitchen table. It read, "It's not 2:13 they fear, it's what watches the clock." The handwriting was Eleanor's, but the words, they were not. The mystery of Grey Hollow and its vanishing hour remained. Eleanor Sykes was never seen again. Her disappearance, like the countless others before her, remained unsolved. Some say she was taken by the entity that haunted the town. Others believed she simply lost her mind and wandered off into the wilderness. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain: Grey Hollow held its secrets close, and the vanishing hour continued to cast its long, dark shadow over the town. The knocking, they say, can still be heard on quiet nights, a chilling reminder of the horrors that lurk in the shadows, a warning to those who dare to uncover the truth. For in Grey Hollow, some questions are best left unanswered,